everybody. Welcome to the Zoom Test Kitchen. I'm Jeff Widgren, and I'm your host. We meet here each Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern. We stream live to YouTube. You can join us there as well. And or after the fact, there's well over a year worth of archives of our meetings and learnings
Hey,
and teaching.
Jeff, can you up your volume? We can barely hear you.
Absolutely. Yep. Here we go. Tell me when. Is that better? Better.
Yeah, I think that's better.
I can give a little more. How about that?
Perfection.
All right. Very good. Very good. So, yeah, we took last week off for the New Year's weekend and relax a little bit, catch up, enjoy the new year with family and friends. But it's good to be back. And I've worked a little bit on my studio and the look and so forth. But I want to ask Ray if he's willing to share with the group backgrounds and studios and the do's, the don'ts, the things that kind of get distracted. I'll just tell you, I go to Frank, Frank Ray. I don't know why I never gave that up. It's like, I'll be Frank
Frankly,
today.
Ray, I don't give a hoot.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, yeah, I reach out to Ray and ask for his unfettered feedback, and I can always count on him to provide that. And it's what he does for a living as professional speaking coach and presentation coach. But so, anyways, I thought I had it in the bag. And Ray was all too kind to provide some really helpful feedback. Um, you don't know the changes. Ray does know the change, and this literally just happened within the last hour and a half, right, Ray? In the sense of some tweaks and changes, and so I'll point out the changes based on Ray's feedback, so that you know, and then I'll let Ray explain kind of why and so forth. So, anyways, on uh, my right side, left on the screen, I guess, where it says Live Labs Zoom Test Kitchen. That was a dual monitor stacked on top of one another. Actually, down low was the laptop, and then the one you're looking at right now was raised higher and behind it, and that looked a little busy, and and then the DVE store logo, who's our sponsor for the high definition Zoom meeting. Thank you to Guy and all of his support. That what did we do to that, Ray? Oh, we changed what it was displaying. It was displaying like an on-air graphic.
But you were going to
Um,
take it off. You were going to take it off the lower third, and it's still there.
oh, it is still there. Well, I would have sworn I took that out of the script for those overlays. Thanks for
That's
pointing
all
that
right.
out.
I'm
Yeah.
sure the Zoom Test Kitchen is happy to have. The
Yeah.
store is happy to
So
have
so
any
anyways, it
promo.
does. I mean, with those bugs that were just up, plus my shirt, plus the laptop behind me, that would be a little much, and it was. So now I need to get rid of those bugs that overlay automatically. Thought I did, but anyways, with that, where the lamp is on the right side, that just had a box of like a wireless microphone product, and so we changed that out from just product versus that. So um, beyond that, it what do you think, Ray? Did we? Oh, and my microphone is I flipped it from that side's arm coming in, which covered up my shirt logo, and put it on this side and brought it in, so it no longer is a obstruction there as well. Things I just didn't think of, and I really appreciate the feedback and candor from Ray on that. So Ray, I'll let you kind of carry on with that because presentations really everything. It makes such a huge difference I've worked on my lighting as well. I don't know if I want to go into all that, but the main thing, the two LEDs are the same, kind of top 45s, but just below those, taped to the poles, the stands, are some LED tubes, white tubes as well, that I've blocked off part of them so they don't cast shadows through my monitors, but they created a little more even lighting for me as well. So that's all I got. Ray, what have you got to
Well,
add to that?
your face is good and it's nice. In fact, for some reason, I just got really bright. But I'll fix that here in a minute. The issue that I'm concerned about is the distraction of backgrounds. And so the old story of putting a bookcase behind you is really a bad choice. And let me do this adjustment, see if I can help myself not look like I was on my Florida tan too much. Oop, went the wrong way.
Tony, David, they're both laughing at each other.
Tony, don't do that. So the first thing is that you want as little distraction behind you as possible. So when we started today, all of what you put back there um, was obviously just added, and it
Mhm.
was present as though it was in the same plane that you were in, and that was distracting. So by cutting down the number of things that were in the background and a couple of other things that you did, I think it looks a lot better. I have an example of a client that came to me that did not realize what the two pictures adjacent to his head were. Um, when he stood back and looked at his desk, he said, "Oh, this looks fine." But when we saw it, this is what we saw. And
Mhm.
I just try to avoid getting things in too close to the head. So you moved them out a little bit, but I'd like to see those two things backed up just a little more.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have the real estate to move them back. And the other thing that I did as well, I think my aperture was at on this. So it's a Canon camera 2470 lens, and I can go as low as 2.8, and that's I don't know if I was as low as 2.8, but I think it was at 4, and I brought that up, I think, to f8. So because they're logos, and so I didn't want them unreadably blurry and bokeh, which I can create at 2.8, but I wanted them somewhat readable, right, and recognizable as well. So I made that decision going forward. And you know, when they're sharp on the background, there's something to be focused on. But at the same time, I'm limited on space in this office as well. I don't have.
Here's another example of somebody who wasn't looking at what was their background and what was
Mhm.
behind them. And
Yeah,
and this is another example. And this is the Hall of Famer right there. This is a famous presenter, and
nice.
that's a piece of artwork behind his desk that he's so very proud of.
Became
But
ponytails.
I couldn't believe it. So um, Dan has the list, and we should go through his list, which he presented just a minute ago, which is a good list to follow. Dan, can you bring that back up? Throw you into it. Yeah. We can't hear you, but that's the
This list,
detail
That
list.
yes.
that looks like a PTZ camera or
That's
PTZ
it.
optics camera menu.
Oh, I see what it is. I thought it was a list of better procedures for setup.
It's actually, surprisingly,
Surprisingly,
it's pretty applicable. You're right.
exposure, color, image. Yes. An
That's
exit,
funny.
get out of there.
Yeah. Restore. Let's start over. Restore the
Sorry,
default.
Dan. I didn't mean that.
Oh,
And
that's
here's the
funny.
last example I want to share. This is a woman who does this every day. She's on Zoom calls and she just is unaware and really just doesn't care. And
Wow.
so I'm a firm believer that you need to realize that this is not a phone call. You're actually on TV and you should present yourself accordingly.
Yeah.
But that's it for
Great
the
view behind her, though. Great,
review.
terrific view.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If you wanted to have us not pay attention to you, there you go. But
So
well, how
those
are
were my inputs, and you made a lot of progress. I think it looks good.
yeah, and other than not having the inches to add for improvement, any other recommendations and so forth moving forward, I'd be happy to comply and learn from and so forth. So thank you very much. Dan, how are you, by the way?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Did you get your 5 to 7 miles in today? You're
I
a
did.
runner. You're a
Yes.
serious runner.
5.
5. Very good. Tony Mobley's here. How are you, Tony?
I'm fine. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still laughing with Ray's comment about the bookcase. So, I'm like you, Jeff, in that I don't have any real estate. That I'm fortunate that my wife is allowing me to be here at this time for close to 2 years.
Didn't you move to didn't you move to is it the living room? I
She
don't
wanted
remember
him to
what.
move
Yeah,
to
I'm
the
in the living
garage.
room. Originally, I was in the bedroom,
Yeah, I
and
remember that.
the blinds and the curtains just did not work, and it was awful. And I'm fortunate that she's still allowing me to be in the living room, and
Yeah.
I continue to test the limits by bringing in more equipment in the living room. So I just ask for you guys to continue to pray that she does not boot me out.
Doesn't give you the boot, huh?
Your bookcases look fine because, first of all, they're not static. They're not something from that you picked up on the internet. But Lois has got an example where she actually made room for her head to be in the middle, and I think her background is purposeful and acceptable. Did you make some adjustments at one point, Lois?
Yes. Right now I'm zoomed out a little bit. If I go in a little further, and when I'm actually going to be on, oh, I forgot we're on, aren't we? I normally get rid of the stuff that you can see around the edges, but I'm still have a studio that I'm working on. I've been working on for over no, well, I started it over a year ago. I haven't been working on it at all. But when that happens, you'll see a different view.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, aren't we all just outside the frames of our picture, surrounded by stuff? It's amazing. Right now, I'm as clean on this side of the office. There you go, Dan. Versus where's that coming from?
I can't find that one. Help me.
It's Ray.
Yeah, I muted Ray and it went away. Not quite sure.
All right. Sorry about that. I don't know where it was, but if I contributed,
Yeah.
I could see his microphone bouncing, so I'm pretty sure that's where it was.
Yeah. I finally caught it. Very good. Anyways, Ray Harwood, how you been? Oh, you're still muted, my friend. You are still Zoom muted.
I hit the Roadcaster and forgot about this one.
Yeah.
I'm doing well, actually. I've had a change in family schedule, which makes it a little bit easier for me to attend now. So I'm happy.
Oh, good. Glad to have you here always. Very good. Mike, how are you?
Doing good.
Very good.
It's very mild up here in Ontario, Canada today.
Is it? What's mild?
Well, by now we're used to these white things on the ground.
Yeah.
We're lacking in that department right now. We officially got lots of water. Thus, I'm going, lots of rain instead of we're used to, fairly constant snow. So
It must
It's
have been
hard
a
to
lot.
shovel rain. It's really tough. Yeah.
Must
yeah,
have been north of me and south of you, because my buddy in South Dakota said they got like 12 to 18 inches of snow overnight or something. I'm like,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. Again, we are north of the infamous, so a lot of buffaloes getting hammered as they usually do.
Yeah.
But usually we're just above the lakes, so we get hammered as well. So
Very cool. Well, it'll settle in, that thing called winter, soon enough. We've had frigid temperatures, a little bit of snow, but it was pretty darn cold. Right now it's like 48 degrees Fahrenheit, so we're perfectly okay now. But anyways, Lois, good to have you here. Good to see you. I haven't seen you lots like we used
Yeah.
to, but
Well, I had a client who, from years ago, I retired in 2015, and she called me back a year and a half ago and said, I really need your help. Will you please come? So I went over to her house 2 days a week I finally told her, I'm quitting at the end of December, and you got to get somebody else. So I'm back. I'm back
Very
for lots
cool.
of stuff. So,
glad to have you.
and when we get to it, I'll have a question.
Okay, very good. Welcome, Tamara.
To be here. I was away for a while, but
Yeah,
I was
good.
watching everything on YouTube, just not on the right day.
Yeah. Even the YouTube with like my gray desktop the whole time.
It was all good.
could you could hear us, you just couldn't see anything. You could see the shares, I guess, but the output of my vmix was outputting the wrong picture. So, and commonly I can like visually see it. Just that day I didn't pay attention to the YouTube stream. Now I have it right here just to my side, so can usually catch things. But let's see who else we have here off camera. We've got Bill and Rashid, John, and Roland. Welcome, everybody.
Hey, Jeff, what is the goal for the meters? So I can adjust myself to be what you want us to be?
It seems like the office
About
hours
20?
kind of set that standard at about 24, 22, somewhere in there. So I'm totally good with that. And it's looking like I may be on the low side of that still. I'm not quite sure why my output is so low, but I'm going to crank it up.
That's one of the things I like about when we do the shows is when people come in, when they talk, they look at the meters and they go, okay, well, let me put that a little down. And I like that. Then we're all about the same. Yeah.
That's right. No, it's one of those things when it's right, and that's hot. When it's right, everything's just good, and you don't even think about it. But when it's really off, and especially in like after hours, every once in a while you get someone who has this really low mic, and it's just super noticeable. Not really, really low, like, and you can't hear them, but enough to go, hey, that's not our standards. But anyways, it's good to be able to hear. If you can't hear them, it doesn't matter whether you can see them. If you can't hear them, it just isn't a program at all. So, well, very good. Lois, you said let's open it up to your question first and see what you got.
Okay, so I will explain the situation. I will tell you what I want, and you will tell me that it's impossible to do it. I spent an hour and a half at after hours trying to do workarounds and all this stuff. But so here is the desire. I am going to be sitting in the Quaker meeting. I'm going to have a laptop in front of me where I can do this stuff. There's going to be on the other side a monitor. I've purchased a monitor that can display for them the gallery. And then when someone speaks, we'll spotlight that so it'll pop up full screen and then go back to the gallery. That's the desire. Now, I now have 2 monitors, so I can turn on that dual monitor thing in Zoom and have 2 monitors. The problem is the one that can get a gallery, which is screen 1,
That's right,
has all the controls on it. The other one that doesn't have the controls on it is just speaker view. And so I could put the speaker view to them, but that's not what they want to see. I could mirror the image so both of them showed the same thing, and then I could have a gallery view, but it would have all of the participants list, the chats, the control panels, all that stuff. So that was what I was asking about and will ask you about. And I was told in after hours yesterday that, yeah, you can't do that. So we were trying things with OBS and all this other stuff, but Zoom, what can we do? And if we can't do it, can we ask them to make it possible?
Lois, can I ask a clarifying question here?
Sure, Ray.
So what is it you're trying to do on the gallery screen that you feel like you need access to it? Or are you talking about spotlighting, unspotlighting, or are you talking about other things?
Spotlighting, looking at participants list, muting and unmuting people.
So
all the
of that
normal
is
host stuff.
done by the host from the participants list.
That's me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all of that can be done through the participants list. If you keep that on your second monitor, it's a little bit different. You can't go click at the person's picture and spotlight them, but you can find them in the list. And as we've done, in several cases, if you make all of the important people co-hosts, they'll all be at the top of the list, and that makes finding them a little easier. But you can do all of that spotlight, unspotlight, mute, unmute through the participant list.
Meaning,
Okay.
let's take it a step further, which is on the audience facing monitor,
Mhm.
you put your
Drag.
primary Zoom window out there.
So not mirroring, but extending.
Not mirroring, but extended. But
Okay.
you give them your screen that you think you need. And the first step of magic is full screening that window.
Okay.
When you full screen it, then you click on the participants button. It will make it a floating participants, and you can move that to your monitor. And you can click on the chat window and it will become floating. You can move that to your monitor, and you can naturally move the Zoom's second window, which is basically the active speaker spotlight window, to your monitor. So now you can see who's spotlit or active speaker. And like Ray says, you can spotlight and unspotlight from the participants window, and you can see the chat and monitor that as well. So you would be doing it from those tools versus that primary window.
Yeah, that is a possibility, and it might be what I have to do, but it means that I can't see when someone is going to be speaking. I can't get them spotlighted when they decide to give ministry.
But you can from the participants window.
But I won't be able to see them. I won't
Yeah, you
have a
will.
gallery.
What do you want to see?
The people, when I see someone's going to speak.
So
Is that a physical? Is that just a physical cue that they're walking up to a microphone, for instance?
They
Or is this
walking.
on Zoom? What indicates? What is it that you're looking for that indicates that they're about to speak?
They stop doing this and they start doing this. If they raise their hand, I should be able to see it. If they unmute themselves, I should be able to see it. But not everybody is muted, so it doesn't if everybody was muted and somebody unmuted, they jump to the top of the participants list. So I say I may have to do that, or I may have to make it so I can peek around the corner, which I don't want to disrupt the meeting for.
Well, so is active speaker not an option, so that when they speak, it naturally spotlights them?
Sure.
Technically.
That,
but,
sure, but we want them to see gallery when it's not active speaker.
Lois,
Yeah.
you can't do this natively in Zoom.
Yeah.
You just can't. I mean,
Not one Zoom. If you had a
right.
second
The
computer.
best you could do is, so what I'm doing now is I've got the gallery view full screen on one monitor, and I'm just bringing it in as a source. And then I could send this source out to whatever monitor I wanted.
So are you using OBS to do that?
I'm using Ecamm, but it's the same
Ecamm, okay.
principle. It's the same principle.
Mhm.
But the problem is, as you said, is that as soon as someone gets spotlit, this view is going to change to the spotlight, and I won't be able to see the gallery anymore. So that's why you really do need to be on two computers so that you can monitor the gallery from one computer and then do the switching from a second computer.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would actually add just a little bit more to what David was saying too, Lois, is that basically what you would want to do is have one computer where you are the host controlling everything, but that second computer is actually more towards your room. So the multiple, monitors that you're going to have in the room, one, if more, if not, that would be that second computer's job is to project onto that what you're going to do.
I hear what you're saying. I understand the idea, and it's a Quaker meeting, and they want as little technology in the room as possible. At least our meeting is allowing technology. The meeting in the next city over has said, no, we don't want any electronics interrupting our worship service because, so yeah, it'll be, yeah. Hey, Tony, what you got?
So in our houses of worship meeting, one of the things that I do is I bring in an iPad that does nothing but look at the view. So that is the way in which I'm able to see the gallery view, and it's not connected to the ATEM or anything. It's just, I just come into the meeting on an iPad, and I am able to see everything in the room. If I want to see what the audience sees, I can do it. I can use it that way. Or if I want it to be on the gallery, I can use it that way.
Are you
So
in with,
that's an option.
Are you in with more than one account into the meeting? Or more than
I
one
do
item?
I do have several accounts.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that I'm using the same account though.
Okay, so for your computer and your iPad are two frames in the Zoom meeting.
Right. There are
Okay.
two participants in the gallery.
That's a good option. I like that option. Yeah. Hey, Tamara.
Hello.
Hello.
So I would just piggyback off of that because I do this all the time. I bring in my iPad or my iPhone as a second device that's just a confidence monitor for me so I can watch the gallery view. The key to that is that you go in with camera off and you go in with audio off. So that your audio is not going to give you a reverb back. So that device is solely going to show you the view. Okay. And you can go in on the same account. You can go in on the same account with multiple devices.
Computer.
Thank you for sharing that, because I forgot that part. I do not have audio on at all, and the camera does not come on at all. It's just a presence in the room.
Yeah.
And I label it the church. The graphic is the church's name.
Yeah, and it will
Roland
ask you
says-
on your iPad, it will try to get you to, are you sure? Are you sure? You're like, absolutely. I do not want, I don't want the sound. Thank you for playing.
Roland says, so you can name the other moderator or anything like audio discount and video disconnected. So just name different names is the key, according to Roland. Same account, but rename.
All right, thank y'all.
Robert's on YouTube, and he I think he seconds the second laptop or whatnot, the second device, which is it doesn't have to be a laptop, but you just talked about the iPad as well. So second device is another recommendation there.
A follow-on question to that: can an iPad drive a monitor?
With the right dongle, my answer would be yes. I'm not a 100% Mac guy, but I think that's the official answer.
I've got my iPad Pro M1 next to me, and And as a matter of fact, I can just switch to it. And that's what's on screen right now on the iPad. And so it's outputting, it naturally mirrors itself to the output. So I'm connected.
I
to
will
the-
try that then.
But I think Lois is asking the other way around. You want the iPad to mirror out to another monitor.
Right. And Dan has the dongles he was being.
Yeah. And that it's, you're talking about the iPad going out to another, not
So
ingesting.
I come into the meeting with the
Yep.
iPad and then it's
Mhm.
projecting onto that monitor.
Yep. Yeah, I can do just that.
That might
I've got
be
one of those
the
little
easiest.
hubs, a little hub connected to mine, with, to the Type C connector, and on the hub is a power pass through, so it's powered at the same time, but then it has an HDMI output and USB and so forth. So yeah.
If you have an old Apple TV lying around, you could even just
That's true.
aircast it to the Apple TV. That's what I do all the time.
Jeff, you're being upstaged.
I'm being. Oh, is she back?
Yeah, what did
Is
Ray
she
say about
back?
distracting backgrounds?
For some reason, she likes this new decor. She's super. It's like she pushed the door open. It has one of the little springy latches. She just pushed the door open, and she's super interested in this readjusted office space. So
Jeff who?
Well, the ledge is big enough for her now.
there's room.
Plenty of room. She could take a nap there too.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, I'm going to go and try and find the proper dongle to connect a monitor to my iPad and see how that works. So we'll see.
Lois,
Yeah,
you might look at some of the comments in the YouTube. Robert and a couple of other people have given some comments you might want to follow up on as well.
I'll go check that out. Thanks.
And then I've had the experience with some dongles seem to require that power input pass through to get that HDMI to flow. Mine worked without it, although I wanted to tell my iPad, hey, don't ever go to sleep while I am here. So I went ahead and gave it power, but I didn't have to. Surprisingly, I thought I would, but this one didn't require it.
So I know where the power charging hole is on my new iPad. Is that the same hole that you use for the monitor, or is that a different one?
No, it's probably going to be the same. And
Ooh.
so, if you have a long meeting, I would say you probably want to seek a small hub that its plug into the iPad is a Type C USB connection, but the hub itself has a Type C, and that is meant for the power input, as if you were plugging it directly in, and just do it through. Got that phone again.
I think it's Jeff because he's the only one whose mic is on.
Well, it is. I saw that it rang, but it's on silent. That's just
Not very.
Yeah, that's really weird.
It'll still ring through your phone if your phone is it'll still ring through your computer.
Oh, you know what's happening?
Yeah.
It's ringing through my iPad. I think
that is what I do
going on.
regularly.
I didn't ever look over there while it was ringing. The iPad. The audio's not on though on the iPad. Huh. Oh well, I'll figure it out. All right. Any other thoughts or shares or experiences in and around this? Any other questions, challenges, new
I
findings?
have a question.
Sure.
So, last night I was playing around with Cinemaker, and I was curious to see if Video Pencil would work in Cinemaker. And I had some success. I got it to work, but I was wondering, has anybody played with Cinemaker recently? I know it was one of the issues that I had in the past was that I was having trouble getting Cinemaker to see my Zoom meeting. And so I had put it down for a while, but I was just playing around with it last night. I was just wondering, has anybody played with Cinemaker recently?
I have not. I did talk to them from Cinemaker at Zoomtopia, and we're gonna get them scheduled back in to demo what their product has continued to grow with over time. So they'll be back soon enough. But yeah, I haven't had my hands on it in a little while. All right, I do have some new tech additions. Let's see if I can make this happen. Let's go there, and I can now telestrate. I can telestrate. You see, it does show the pencils as I change colors, for instance, but I can telestrate in color, which I know some can, some can't. And that's on my iPad that is here next to me, and I created an overlay in vMix that just keys out the blacks, and then I had to do quite an extensive testing on like color tweaks, RGB tweaks, and their levels to be able to see accurately as many of the colors from the palette that are available as well. But got it working pretty decently there. It doesn't give me the feedback like Video Pencil, right? So this is just, I'm just drawing on an iPad, not necessarily seeing my video feedback either. So that's that presents its own special challenge if you don't want to draw on yourself. But this technology itself, and so I'm just using Microsoft Whiteboard on the iPad, and the HDMI output of the iPad is going into my PC's capture card and into vMix, and then I turn it on as an overlay, and with it being preset with the transparency, I scaled it up a little bit. There are some toolbars that are here that you can't see until I click on one. And so you can't see the toolbar I click on, which is on the left side, because it's scaled up and out of the way. But this silly toolbar that pops up as a consequence of it is their app. I mean, there's nothing I can do about that one.
Are you
This
sharing
this
screen?
particular.
Do
No,
you-
it's on my video. Well, I wasn't drawing, but it's on my video right now. You can you should be
I
able
only
to
see your face. I'm sorry.
Do you see the lines that are across
Yes,
my
thank you.
face right now? There you go. So
I see you too, Dan.
yeah, that's right. So Dan, in comparison, what are you using to
The only thing different is I'm using a basic whiteboard from the App Store and the Microsoft Store, so that the only visual it has is at the top. So these are this up here is the palette color selector, which you're only seeing the
Gotcha.
green actually. And then I can clear. I kind of like it because I see where the clear button is when I'm
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
at the Wacom tablet.
Very cool. And Tony's using the Video Pencil. I know, I've seen that. I just haven't invested in that and given it the fair time on it, but that continues. Anybody else telestrating and have a different? I know, David, you telestrate, right? What is it that you're using for it?
Yeah.
Oh, you unmuted and then it muted again.
Sorry, I'm a Video Pencil guy. Video
Okay.
Pencil. Oh, it didn't work. See, I want to show off. Video Pencil. There we go.
There you go. There you go. And I did like about the whiteboard is somewhere here. You can you can add, shapes and reactions and so forth as well. So there's some reactions that are built in that pop out. If you're drawing, if you just make the attempt to draw a shape, pretty sure it had it going yesterday. Didn't think, yeah, there we go. So it'll clean up their circles and squares and rectangles and so forth as well. And then if you change to the pointer, they become um, objects that are resizable and removable and or movable as well. So there's some things that I kind of liked about this. Don't do it a lot, but certainly wanted to take on the challenge.
Is this on a regular iPad, Jeff?
I
What are
don't
you
know
drawing on?
it is. It's like a 10-inch, iPad M1 Pro, and I bought it. I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. But I like it. I like it in the sense that it's multifunction as well. As a device. So if I were to, let's see if I can pull this off all right. Didn't get my Stream Deck totally set up, but
Is that the Magic Keyboard you have it on?
no. There we go. There's that and that. So if I, wanted to demonstrate, so what I was testing that with yesterday, just to get things set up and going, was to be able to do this. Just that's not the picture I wanted. I don't know why that cut over. So I can go to my PTZ camera view, and then this is called pan tilt zoom as an application for a mobile device. And I don't know how many of you use PTZ cameras, but and the $500 to $600 joysticks, which are a bit of a joke in the sense that they're just not smooth and precise in my experience. I don't know how much more you have to spend to make it better. Part of it's the camera and the gearing and so forth, but part of it's the controller itself. Where this is a software application, it's over my wireless in the office here. And if I take this joystick by hand, you can see how smooth the camera operates, and I'm just thoroughly impressed with that, and the presets. You can just touch a button if you want. You've got 1 2 3 by 5, 15 presets per camera. The bottom 8 boxes are individual cameras, and so presets, but then the hand control, and then the edges of these are bumpable. You can see it flashing on the top of the circle. I'm touching that, and so you can bump them if you need to, but if you move the joystick and so forth. So I like it that the iPad is kind of multifunction as well. A telestrator and so forth. So works fine. All right. Any other toys people have that they want to show off, talk about? I was going to go to David, but David left. He's been messing with the new avatars, I guess. I I don't seem to have a need for those, but I'm sure some folks must. I just don't know where in a regular day I'd fit an avatar on screen, but I think it would be odd in what I do anyways.
Jeff, you must have missed the last Zoom community meeting. They were all using avatars, and it
Were
was
they all? Yeah, I didn't make that one. But as a matter of fact, I haven't even been contributing lately on the community. I just had too much else going on, and kids home from college and all that jazz. So I need to jump back in and and contribute. And it's always a good learning process over there too. I mean, some of the questions that get posted, it's like, are they serious? I mean, are they really experiencing that?
Video pencil.
And sure enough, some of them are, and they're just real odd situations. I mean, today, I mean, I hardly
Video
ever
pencil.
run into real big issues, any real weird issues with Zoom. But on my streaming laptop, when I joined the Zoom meeting today, holy moly, the video of myself on that was just super granulated and pixely, and I'm like, what the heck? And eventually it caught up. But I mean, I've got a Google connection here at, I can measure 940 up, 940 down, and so I don't think it's that. I've got YouTube streaming here, the host is here, I've got 2 others connected. I mean, I'm moving some data right now, but nothing compared to the pipe that's plumbed in here. So, and everything's hardwired except my iPad, so it shouldn't be the case. So, anyways, I also thought that I want to kind of pick on Ray if you're willing to participate. Ray Harwood.
2 of us now.
Yeah. Yeah. Now Ray Franklin is now Frank. and
My first name's James. You can call me Jim, but
yeah, there you go.
Or JR.
Yeah, JR. I've got a brother named Jim or James. He was Jamie when we were growing up, and he's been a Jim for years as an adult. But
you got
Ray, as far as I didn't make our community meeting, but what are some? Yeah, I mean, we always review some of the kind of top concerns and most popular posts and so forth. Anything that kind of ringing high, top of mind that a lot of folks are dealing with and have any solutions?
geez, we continue to get just inundated with I have a music session with an instructor, or a couple of us play together, and our music, we can't hear each other. And you and I both know, as many times as we've posted about using the original sound for musicians, that is called today, for whatever reason, people don't get it. And a lot of people have said, look, I've done that, but it still doesn't work. And who knows, you really have to deep dive with them and go, now, are you using a laptop that's in that corner of the room and your buddy's playing a ukulele on the other side? I mean, you just don't know. But there's a lot of that. And then the other one is those sort of random video things. And I'm finding out that a lot of people with Macs and a lot of people running Windows 11 are actually having issues as the upgrades roll out. And I don't know whether Zoom is making any changes or whether there are hot fixes that are coming in that are causing those, but I see a whole lot of those.
What kind of video challenges?
I can't bother answering.
I only have one machine that's Windows 11, and it was the one after I upgraded Zoom today, and it is my only Windows 11 in the office. All the others are 10 and a Mac. And it was the one that showed me just this crap video coming through, and eventually it settled down and cleared up, and it's the one streaming right now, so it's doing fine. But it started off really bad for 20-30 seconds, and I had never seen Zoom deliver that before. So it just felt like it was this buffering negotiation going on, and it eventually got where it needed to get, and away it went. Daniel.
Yeah, I was curious. Is anyone familiar with all the, like, I updated Zoom a while ago and I've been doing my Zoom magic shows, but does anyone know what those little apps are on the side, and
I
what's the
saw
best
that
use?
I saw that pop up.
Have you not been scarfing up things from the App Store, the Zoom App Store? I don't know.
I've seen it, but I don't know what's the
Tried
best
several
case,
of
and
them.
I just was gonna come here to learn from you guys, or get my 15-year-old son to do the research. But I figure
That's
one or
right.
two of you might actually know and help me save some time. But if anyone
Yeah.
has any ideas on what these apps on the like Fuvatinity, and you can add a whole bunch of other things. I don't even know what these are. Does anyone know?
No, well, it's, I mean, some of the apps may be, real, may be popular. We don't know it. The dock itself coming up on the right side of the screen is definitely new. And I think that's, an effort on their part to to
Remote.
kind of debut them, I guess. Kind of let the world know, sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's really frustrating. I mean,
There's
that
an X on
toolbar
the
came
bottom.
up.
You can
Yeah,
click on
there
that
is
X in the bottom and make
yeah,
it go
and
away.
it closes the dock, but I didn't turn it on, and the thing is it was my Zoom machine that I use to, full screen, as clean of a feed as I can to go out to YouTube, and there's this dock in the way, and I'm doing it via screen capture, so the dock naturally would have streamed as well, and so I had to, kind of look at that and go, one, what is it? Two is to make that all happen. So I'm trying to find an option. There must be an option that is causing it, that they've turned on by default. But
If you click the more menu at the bottom, the three little dots, it opens up a sub menu that's one of them's closed dock and the other one is a checked open in all meetings. And I think if you uncheck that, I haven't tested this yet. I think if you uncheck that open in all meetings, it will not open next time when your Zoom window comes up.
gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, it defaulted on as soon as I did the upgrade.
Yeah,
Yeah,
mine defaulted
so.
on. Yeah.
The thing about these is that we're all getting a free year access to all of these apps. They're paid apps, or they will be after a year. So that's why they've been thrown up there. Twine is something we've played with before here.
Gotcha.
There's
Yeah, I
a
mean,
Boggle app in there too, and I got an email from the purveyor of the Boggle app, and it said, "Yeah, we're going to take that off not too long from now." So,
gotcha. I think the Zoom app space has been improving, as far as being able to consume them without having to teach people how to do it and install them, and and get permissions and grant permissions company wide and so forth. It's getting smoother for both the developers, Zoom, and the users naturally, and I think it is at a point of comfort now with Zoom that they're easier, to consume, and there's some features out there that are really advantageous. I know Andy, had talked just a little while ago about a screen grab that can be built in, and or group shot, I think it is. It's in the Discord, I think. But sometimes when you're in a big meeting, you want that team picture or group shot or whatnot, and if it's built in, the timer certainly is really popular in the sense countdown clocks and timers and so forth. So they're certainly growing. Anybody else? Tamara, you guys do a lot. Do you
Yeah, I mean, I
use
know
them?
they sent out a series of emails because I kept getting, I'm a tech consultant for these kind of things for an organization, and I kept getting emails like, what do I do? I'm like, don't do anything. It doesn't affect you. But also, like, good on Zoom for popping them up where you could see them and kind of forcing you into it. They do give you an opt out if you hunt around for it. But when they first announced apps, it was really hard to kind of find them, figure out how to use them, know if there was anything I wanted. So good on them for like saying this is a feature we have and we're going to kind of force it on you to play around with. I think the average person is still not going to play around with them, but I kind of we often talk about how Zoom is hard for even those of us who know how to use it to kind of figure it all out. So I think it's kind of a good thing that they're kind of saying, hey, we offer this other thing and we're going to push it in your face.
Yeah. Well, I mean, deal with a little frustration from your customers in turn for massive exposure for maybe even a short amount of time, that hey, this exists and this is how you can consume, and it's easier now and they're better. And I mean, fact is if you considered polls and surveys and chat apps, if Zoom apps worked as seamlessly, in a Zoom meeting, and that's where some of them I think are and are heading for sure. It'll be no big deal.
But
It'll
from
be
a
no big
from
deal.
a business point of view, they have made deals with these companies to say we're going to give you
Yep.
exposure, and then it wasn't very good exposure from just a business standpoint, because people had to opt into finding them. So from a pure business standpoint and just a marketing standpoint, like that is one way for them as a company to make good on deals that they have likely made with all of these other companies, to say, yes, sign on, be adaptable with us, and then we'll help promote you. So I think it's a good, I mean, just from yes, it could be annoying for me as a consumer, but also this is a business. And so I think that also.
So where do you find out what the heck these things are? If you hover over them, it doesn't tell you anything.
Look at the links in the chat. I think Frank put a couple in there.
And on your toolbar in Zoom, your Zoom toolbar, you should have an apps button. And if you click on that apps button, it defaults to my apps. So if you don't have anything installed, you may not see anything, but there's a tab next to it called Discover. And that's where you can shop, if you will. That's the app store, if you will. And you can do it online as well. But within the Zoom client, right now I'm looking at it, you can browse apps and check them out. And I can see a category of what we have, some approved apps in in this account. Heads Up's one of them, Timer, Miro. Then there's category of trending. I mean, it's an app store.
Maybe something, you're able to see something as a host that we're not, because when I click that little apps button, it just turns on and off the dock. That's all it does. I don't see anything else.
Gotcha.
Is that a host thing? Can other people see it?
Lois, how you can add and get in more information is the plus button at the bottom. When you have the toolbar up, there's a little plus button that'll take you over, and your chat, where the chat is, that'll now become the App Store.
Thank you. I assume the plus button meant, oh, I want to add an app.
All right. Very good.
Frank has a question.
Oh, Frank.
Hello.
Frank, how are you?
Good, thanks. I'm just gonna go where I always go. Third-party apps have risks. You really should read the terms of use or terms of service before you use one, especially if you're deciding for a client or somebody else. A lot of the apps capture data. They might capture usernames or other data, maybe your contact list, it depends. And then depending on the terms of use, you may be agreeing that they can keep those bits of data, they can sell them, they can do whatever they want with them. So apps have privacy concerns, and you really should consider those before you use the third-party apps.
Yeah, like all those apps on our phones and mobile devices as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's those long
Frank.
license agreements that are rarely read and not changeable. You just have to understand it and go with it or not.
Frank, question for you.
Certainly.
On when you when you're deploying it at your location, and I know you're in a min for hundreds of different Zoom accounts, did it default that everybody saw that?
We turned it off. We don't allow third-party apps unless they go through our privacy office, and our privacy office is not a big fan of most of the third-party apps. And they've warned us some specific apps that I won't name here are egregious in their capturing of third-party data and what they do with it, which upsets some of our users. They want some of these third-party apps. They've used them other places or they've had exposure to them. And we say, sorry, we have to protect all the users on the system. And most of the apps are either all on or all off. You can get into groups management and stuff where you can allow select users, but mostly we don't allow them because we're trying to safeguard people's privacy.
Yeah, I mean, how near would a large organization be to a data breach, having an app like that be either allowed or mismanaged in an administrative sense, that it was granted far too much access or whatnot as well? I mean, it's got to be a fairly narrow line, I would guess. And I'm talking kind of the stuff that makes headlines, right? Is that so? Yeah, definitely. We've got things that got to learn. And hey, to Frank's point, not that you said this, but make no assumption that they're all being apparently, not vetted in the sense of data, as long as it's, I mean, maybe vetted to the sense that it's stated in a license agreement, but you may as well just hide it, putting it there. In a sense, these license agreements are so daggone long and legal that most of us don't even scroll through them, let alone read the actual detail of them as well. So, all right.
And I just verified, Frank, what you just said. I just disabled it on the admin on our account too, and I turned off Zoom apps quick launch button, and it's gone. It's off my Zoom window, even though I've joined yours, which you're the host of. It turns it off for this account.
I just do not disturb my iPad.
The hardest
And,
thing as an admin is if trying to take something away from someone is very, very difficult. It's a big culture problem because once someone's had access to an app and you say you can't have it anymore, wow, do they get upset. So if you were ever going to start your own Zoom situation with a large group of people, you may want to plan that in your deployment because it's really hard to unravel once you've let the genie out of the bottle.
Frank, did they give you enough of a heads up before they launched it?
No, I would say no. Sometimes Zoom has some business practices I don't enjoy. And I imagine some of it's marketing driven. They turn on features by default, and maybe it's the weekend or something, and you're not paying attention. And then on Monday, 17 or 100 people have seen it, and then you go, "Oh, we don't want that," and you turn it off, and then you get some hate mail like, "Hey, that was cool. I want that." I understand from a business perspective, they want to make these agreements with third-party companies and cross-pollinate. But for Zoom admins, it's kind of painful when they don't give you advance notice and a new feature set shows up on by default. I really wish things were off by default and they give you the option to turn them on if you feel they add value to your organization.
Considering the type of account you have, Frank.
Yeah, well, education, medical, legal, corporations. There's a lot of reasons why we're sensitive. If you're just you in your house using Zoom and it's your personal account, maybe it's not such a big deal. But when you're a large institution or something, these are challenges that make it harder to be an admin.
You do get an email when one of your users does request an app.
Yeah, you do, and I turn them off I say no all the time, and
yeah,
most people go away and they're fine. I can't have it, boohoo. But there are people who won't leave it there, and I understand. But you explain that there's a process and procedures, and these aren't in compliance with our policies.
all right, who's ready for avatars? Question
Lois
is
has her
David
hand up.
Paskin ready to present on avatars? He's like, what?
Hello?
First one to use them and show up to the Zoom test kitchen gets to share. Lois, go ahead.
Okay, so I have another question, and it's
Okay.
not avatar related.
That's
It's
all right.
you guys, how did you get those people? Because I only see animals. Never mind. Let me ask my question first. So I know that I can go into the keyboard shortcuts and I can locate something that says switch camera or that sort of thing. But if my Zoom recognizes more cameras than I actually have, if I switch that camera, it'll go maybe to the OBS camera, which isn't on at the moment. And then it'll go to which I tried to get rid of, but I don't know how to delete a camera from Zoom. And then it'll go to something else I don't have anymore. How do I, switch back and forth from this camera and that camera? And B, how do I get rid of the other options in Zoom that I'm not using anymore? So how do I delete a camera from the Zoom list?
So I have I mean, it's a rotator. It's not a designated second, right? So it just goes through the list, and which is exactly what you've explained, which is not super helpful when you have several devices, right?
You have to click real fast to get past.
If I went through mine, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cameras as choices as far as video devices. NDI, VMAX, you know, just a bunch of them. One physical camera, but they're system exposed. As far as I know, they're system exposed. You've never added them, nor can you just add them to Zoom. Zoom recognizes via your operating system devices capable of delivering video into Zoom that you might possibly choose as a input camera device. And so I don't believe there's a way to individually remove it from Zoom without removing that video device from your entire operating system.
Or the application.
And where do I find the video device to remove it?
In your operating system. You have to delete it, deinstall it from your operating system, and then Zoom won't see it.
So
I'll add real quick.
I removed the program. The camera thing is still in there.
Are you on a Mac though?
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know Macs well enough, but I know that sometimes I delete things on the one Mac that I do have and they don't seem to go away. I can't help you there, but I'll see if I can find something to let you know. One of the things that
call the company and tell them, ask them how to do it. That's okay.
So when you deleted the app, did you delete the app by dragging it to the trash, or did you use an uninstaller? Sometimes applications have uninstallers that clean up all the little bits and pieces. There's probably a plist or something left on your computer that makes Zoom feel like the driver's still there, so the camera's still there. So you probably didn't fully uninstall it.
So if there was an uninstall, I would have used it. If there wasn't an uninstall, I would have dragged it.
Okay. There's probably a remnant of it left over on your hard drive somewhere, probably in a plist or something. And until you get rid of that, it's probably going to keep tricking Zoom into believing it's still there.
So I'll call the company and find out what it is I need to look for and delete.
You could use something like Clean My Mac to uninstall apps, and it'll, oh God, what, Frank?
It's just kind of surreal seeing you this way.
Okay. I thought you were laughing at my pick. No, but you can use Clean My Mac to and that will do a clean uninstall.
Is that a safe program? Because I have so many old things on here. I'm worried that it'll go, oh, this is 15 years old, we'll throw it away. Is it a safe program and it won't uninstall stuff you don't tell it to?
I've used it without a problem for years, but I don't work for them, and I certainly can't vouch for them.
I have as well, and it doesn't. I mean, first thing it does is it scans and shows you, and you're the one ultimately making the choice of whether it's actually going to remove it or not. So, yeah, it's always been really successful for me as well.
Clean My Mac. Okay, I'll look for that.
Yep.
It's actually, and it's if I remember correctly, it's a Ukrainian company, which is great to support those companies.
Super. Andy, question?
Oh, well, a couple of things. One is thanks for your help the other day. Yeah, with this project that I'm doing, it's a memorial at the end of January. And the main thing I was going to say is that we've set up another test day where I'll be here running the Zoom, and and Jeff knows this issue that we had with vMix and Zoom integration that we're going to work out. So yeah, I just wanted to pop in with that. That's really
Cool.
the way to say it.
Yeah, send me the date, and I'll even just make note or put it on my calendar and be there. And,
Yeah, January 23rd, and I'll get the time, which has not been worked out yet, but I'll definitely get that your way, and you can post it. Yeah.
Sounds good.
I think it's at 11 a.m. Yeah, I think it's January 23rd at 11 a.m. But I'll be sure to text you or Discord you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, let's take a look at this real quick on if I share my screen. And let's see if I can blow this up a little bit. Hey, that's bigger. So this is the settings dialog inside of Zoom. And if you talking about the new avatars that we've got a few on screen right now in the gallery, David and Dan and Roland. Everybody can play along if they'd like. And so under settings, however you want to get there, there's lots of different ways to end up on this dialog. You can select the background and effects. And that's where you set your virtual backgrounds, you play around with video filters, and then this beta of avatars. And so there's lots to do under here, actually. And
Yeah, but you
so
haven't you didn't create your own personal avatar yet. That's why
I
you don't
haven't
see it
done my
there.
own. I
Right.
wanted to kind of just walk through that, I guess. And I never get it right anyway. So, I'll create an avatar and go, "Hey, honey, come look at this. This is me." And she's like, "What?" That's not you. I'm like, "Okay." So I missed the mark a lot. But there are some pre-built ones. And this is, to Lois's point, she goes, "I've only ever seen animals." And you can pick one of their um pre-built avatars and all of a sudden I'm a cat, and or I could be a cow, and or you can click on the plus sign, and now you can build your own. And this is what's beta and new, which is picking a skin color, kind of the shape of the face, the hair, and so forth. So if you guys want to have some fun, you can drive this through and help me build my avatar.
Be careful what you wish for.
Oh, I know.
Are you able to bring in the one that you've already created and use on your phone and your Mac and everything?
That I don't know. Does anybody else?
No, this
Dan says
this-
no.
You build this natively in Zoom.
All built in and kept in. All right, so I'll it's winter time, don't have much of a tan. I think it's already got my wide face selected pretty decently over there. So we'll go with that. The hair. Anybody notice I have more hair these days? Been letting it grow out the last several weeks. I'm kind of, what does that say? Oh, that says braids. I'm not braids. Locks. Don't know them locks. Oh, well, I'll just go with the guy. Oh, there's more. There we go. Balding. Thanks for that description. Hair color. I need brown and gray. We'll go here. Eyes. Oh my gosh. How do I pick my eyes? I don't know what my eyes look like. Anybody have a go from number 1 to whatever and give me a
Look for
number
the
on
sexy eyes. Choose the sexy eyes.
I see these evil eyes here. Sexy eyes. I don't know. I don't see anything that looks too sexy.
If you hover over them, they'll give you something.
Yeah, just a number.
Never mind.
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll go with some cute round eyes. Lashes. Color. Kind of looks purple. I'll go dark. Eyebrows. I have no idea. Let's just pick eyebrow color. Wow, pretty detailed. Nose. Pick. Man alive, look at all these details. Lipstick. I'll go with pink lips, I guess. Facial hair. I don't have facial hair now. Oh, that's a little bit of hair. None. Facial hair color. Clothing. Oh, goodness. Well, this will help us look all dressed up.
I noticed they don't have anything to make me look old. Right, Frank?
Head covering.
And Dan, that when you were moving your head just the last, 30 or 40 seconds, it kind of looked like a bobblehead.
Nice. Okay. Oh, I do.
Oh, now you're looking stylish there.
There we
Nicely
go.
done.
Mr. Librarian.
Head
Try
covering.
and be the Blues Brothers or something.
Why'd you mess with the hair if you were just going to put a hat on it?
I know, right? All right. So this is, excuse me. This is the new me. Oh, goodness sakes. Can I wave? Oh, they don't wave. They just move from the neck up.
And I noticed you can duplicate it, like if you like what you did, and then you just want to make a change without the hat or whatever, you can have multiple.
It doesn't wink. Oh, it closes, but it doesn't wink. Too much fun. All right. Now I got to go back to gallery view and see who else has got an avatar built now. Do we have a few? We have
And
three.
when you get
We
the
still
hands
have-
in there, that'll be good.
Yeah, the hands will be cool. Very good.
David, do they have anything resembling a yarmulke?
They don't. That's actually one of the first things I look for whenever I create an avatar is can I put a beanie on my head? No,
Sure.
it's interesting. They actually have hold on, where is it? Let me pick it up here. Head coverings. They have like turbans. They have
Mhm.
hijabs.
Right.
They have head wraps. And they have hats, but they don't have a yarmulke, which is
That's
it's interesting.
odd.
It's interesting
Yeah.
to me that they have hijab. Like if they didn't have hijabs and
Right.
turbans, then that
Like
makes
they were
perfect
want, yeah,
sense.
I could see them wanting to stay away from that maybe, but they have it because they want to, I
Yeah.
guess, appeal to
Yeah.
those folks but they're not appealing to us if they don't have a yarmulke.
Oh well.
Not that I'd wear one on Zoom, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
I stepped away for a second. How did you guys get your avatars?
So,
Plus sign, where you look at the animal avatars, there's a plus sign.
Yeah, if you go to
Newest
the
version of Zoom.
settings, dialogue, background, and effects.
Yeah, I
and
didn't
then
upgrade.
avatars.
I didn't update my Zoom, so the avatars I had were just those animals. I guess that they
Ah.
introduced.
Yeah, the
way back when.
new release is the people
Yeah.
builder.
And the
Yeah,
freakiest part about the whole avatars is that it does track your blinking. And so if you step away from the computer, your avatar will stay there, but it will just stare dead-eyed right into the camera with no blinking. It's terrifying.
That's funny.
Where is it again? I have the updated version of Zoom.
Yeah, so it's under your settings dialog, video settings, audio settings, just get to that settings dialog. And then down the left side of all the choices, audio, video, etc., is the
Where is your
background.
settings dialog? Is it in the menu bar in the top?
You can I often just go to like the video button or the audio button, mute or stop video, the up carrots next to one of those,
Video. Okay.
and just go to video settings. It's the same dialogue with all the choices, but change it from video down to background and effects when you get that pop-up dialogue.
So you know what's going to happen now that the image freezes when you walk away from your computer, which is a lot of people are going to think, they can get away with that during like some meeting, and then someone at the meeting will figure out they're gone and then give them a lot of grief when they come back and start moving.
Here.
You just
Oh,
need to
look at
screen
that.
capture.
I just, earlier when I was non-avatar, I rotated my whole vMix picture and I was upside down and so forth. When I rotated the avatar, you can see I'm now a profile. I'm a 9:16. Wow, I was not expecting that, except I'm banging my head against the wall. Huh. Interesting.
You didn't rotate with it. That's why.
Yeah, it doesn't rotate. Yeah, it does not rotate the avatars. It rotates the background. That's what's happening. But it doesn't rotate the avatar.
And by the way, for those
Why
of you
does-
who the icing on the cake here is to use the avatar in conjunction with a virtual background. So, for example, I have this photo of my, just what my Zoom looks like from my desk. If you were to actually look at me, and so so here I am without the avatar on, and then if you use both in conjunction, then you can get it without that white background that it's giving you by default.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. It's amazing. I mean, with all the different stuff we've got in our backgrounds, how well they key it all out. It's impressive.
I do have a feature request, which is that it has some AI that makes it appear that you are actually at the meeting.
Hey, James, check.
Like you're responding to what's going on so that you can walk away and, do whatever you want to do and then come back into the meeting. That would be my feature request.
Well, there are. I was actually looking at the new essential apps. There are a couple of apps that give feedback on engagement. Now, what's interesting is I don't know how it does that. What is it measuring as engagement? Is it actually doing eye tracking? Is it just looking at, are they chatting in the comments? Are they muted or unmuted? I don't know what they're using, but there actually seem to be tools that already do measure to a certain extent a person's engagement in a meeting.
I think it depends on the app, but commonly what I've seen is they how many times you put your hand up, how many polls you answer, how many times you interact. They can measure those kind of things through the software development kit, and they tabulate. Some of them tabulate a score for that after the meeting's over in a report.
Well, and I would imagine they're going to add this to their analysis, which is another new feature is Q&A in meetings.
In some meetings.
Yeah, very disappointed.
I'm really upset about that.
Well, that is they're definitely trying to get everybody on Zoom One, anything, right?
Wait till the
Zoom One
9th.
Business and so forth.
I don't know for sure, but I heard there might be a change on the 9th.
Really?
But I don't know.
It's not just Zoom One, just so you know, Jeff. It's Zoom One Business.
Business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
business and enterprise.
Or all pro accounts can't do it.
I have a ticket in with my rep, and he doesn't even know what's going on. I've asked him twice, and he said he's looking into it. So there's some confusion at Zoom, I think, about what's happening.
What?
But the release notes, what do you got there, Lois? Just same experience on. Oh, you've got hands on some of those.
So this is a Memoji.
Oh.
It's in Apple on my phone, and I can create this, and it gives you much more options. Like I have hair with gray in it, brown hair with gray. My eyes can be my eye color instead of just that generic brown. So this one's pretty cool.
Yeah, good stuff.
By the way, just getting back to the Q&A, it's entirely possible that I missed it, but I thought that I read those release notes pretty carefully, and I don't think in the original version of the release notes that it said business only. And because
I agree.
Yeah, I immediately reached out and I'm like, oh my God, where is it? And then they actually didn't know what I was talking about. As you mentioned, my rep also was very confused. And then they pointed me, I think a day later, to release notes that now all of a sudden said business.
Yeah, the release notes were updated with the license restrictions, which wasn't there before they released the ability.
sorry, what is the Q&A feature? Is that what you're talking about now? What does that give
Yeah.
you?
Q&A.
As go ahead, Jeff.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
It's always just been available in webinar. Chat's been on both, but chat's
Okay.
just this runaway, window of,
Right.
the bigger the meeting, the busier it is. Q&A is very specific. Hey, I have a question. It's like
Oh,
Macau
okay.
to
So
a
it's like in the
degree,
webinar. I got it. Yeah. And they're just porting it over to
and you
the
can have,
meetings.
designated moderators answering it either
Sure.
online or on air and
Got
so
it.
forth. And you have visibility options and you can force them to be anonymous or allow them to be anonymous and so forth. So, and they can vote them up as well. So you can get popularity measurements before you go there.
And the other thing around all that, is it just me? Because I've been behind on Zoom's, development, recently. So I went back into their website because I was curious about, their events. And I typed in Zoom events into Google, and obviously it takes you everywhere or gives you too many responses. So then I tried to narrow it down, and I did get to Zoom, but where it gets me into Zoom, it's like, all right, now what do I click on to learn about events? And it's weird. And I thought I was doing it in a very logical way to discover this information. But
Can you just clarify, when you say events, do you mean the product Zoom events, or
yes,
do you mean
the
things
product
that Zoom is?
No, the product Zoom events.
Okay.
And yeah, and that, to your point, David, the first place it took me was their events, and like, okay, I need to refine the search.
Explore.zoom.us.
Right. So I did
events,
that. And even then, when I went into that page, it's like, there's so much stuff there. And then I'm like, okay, maybe I'll see if I can find a video on this page. And there was a video, but the video wasn't for events. It was for, I forget what it was. It's some feature of events. And I'm like, well, that's not telling me about this product. So now, granted, if I had more time, I would have really read what they had and really dug through it in a logical way. But I just thought, that's not if they're really trying to market this, they need to make it a little easier for everybody else. Like, you guys, obviously, a lot of you are going to dig down because, that's what you do and that's what we do. But I just wanted the quick answer and I couldn't get it. So anyway,
do dig down. It's just, it's really hard. I mean, I'm an educator, so I just want to go in and redo all those videos and figure out a way to solve that problem for them. Because I think about the fact that I go in with a purpose. Anyone on this, we go in looking for very specific information with a want for it and a need to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
And that initial page that says, our learning center is so gorgeous. And you're like, oh, I've come to the right place. And then as soon as you start hunting around for answers, it becomes untenable.
Yeah.
So to learn about the product, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't at all disagree. I used to have the hardest time trying to Google and find just to learn about, Zoom events and so forth. Then I think many of us have experienced the challenge of actually attending a Zoom event until you realize just use the URL events.zoom.us and log in. And then when you log in, then it takes you to this, tickets that you're associated to and so forth. To learn about the platform, the way I get there these days is go to zoom.us and then go to products. And when you click on products, then you have over to kind of right center is Zoom events. And then there's the second one down is the event platform itself. Straightforward. Almost everybody starts with Google these days. And Google is not kicking back this assumption. I think the assumption is you want to see the events, much like their on Zoom type marketing platform that was out there. And Zoom events was never meant to be marketed. That was one of the things. This is a corporate product, and we're not helping you with marketing. We're providing a platform that you're, paying for and so forth. But yeah, I don't think Google/Zoom has, created this connection that
What,
says, hey, we want to
Oh,
assume the world
Jeff,
right now
can you,
wants to see events platform and learn
Jeff,
about
what
it.
did, I'm not sure I understand. Zoom events was not or is not meant to be marketed?
As so on Zoom, which was the
Right.
predecessor to Zoom events, it was well known out of the gate that if you join on Zoom as a provider, a yoga instructor or whatever, part of the advantage of doing it on Zoom was that they maintain this page of like featured events and others and so forth. That was kind of like the starting point, like going to YouTube to a degree, and as I understood it early on, Zoom events was not about that. It was about the platform for these complex conferences, online conferences and so forth.
Yeah, and that, and
But if you Google things, you kind of end up on those pages, especially if Chrome has your login cached, and so when you get to the page, you're logged into Zoom already, and therefore it's very assumptive. This needs to be all about your login and Zoom events, and if you're registered for any and so forth. So it's yeah, it's a little confusing.
yeah, and just one more thing. I know Ray's got his hand up, which is I just put the link in that the part that confused me, and now it's more clear, which is this product, Zoom Events, is really more like a full conference, because the first tab at the bottom of this page that I just put in there is Expo. So that's like, the trade floor, right? That's the idea behind that. And then they have Backstage, which is the next tab over, which is Backstage is a persistent meeting space for events, hosts, and panelists to easily move in and out of sessions, blah, 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 blah. Then there's session branding. Then there's networking. So it's really trying to compete with those products that came out early in the pandemic that were trying to recreate, an expo or convention experience versus what I was looking for, which was more like, I'm a production person. What are you giving us so that we can, on the back end? And so that's what I didn't find, but I know they have that stuff because they're already using it for their own events. And it's what I've heard a little bit about, talked about. I guess maybe they haven't released that, maybe some of that yet, or only partially released it or whatever. I'd be curious. That'd be a good question for Andy Carluccio, and then.
Well, Zoom Events is a released solution, and over the
Yeah.
last year, it's developed and advanced a lot. I mean,
Sure.
they've really put a lot of time into it, and
Yeah.
it is that platform that when the world comes to your event, and you have to, somebody in your organization has to build this complex schedule.
Right.
They need to show the speaker pictures, they need to show the speaker bios, they
Yeah.
need a description of which ones do you want to highlight in the lobby versus that when you get
Yeah.
together in this session, is it going to be a meeting or a webinar, more of
Yeah.
a theater
And I
versus a collab?
and I get it.
Zoom events exist, and that's exactly what it does.
Yeah, and I get this from a marketing perspective. This is not marketed to us. It's marketed to people who might, we're at a company, for example, who need to host something online or do a hybrid event, and they're thinking about using Zoom as that piece of it. And it's not for the production staff, and a lot of the folks who are on this call.
Yeah,
right now.
I mean,
Yeah.
your point is, is one of when I first had Sam from Zoom on the Zoom Test Kitchen talking about Zoom events, that was one of my takebacks. It sounds like this is being marketed to the consumer, the customer, not the professionals that get hired to bring in all the gear for their events and so forth. And we're the ones, that they depend on to deliver the production. And this seems like a platform for it. It's not a producing platform, but it's a, and there was no argument on that,
Sure.
it's one of those things where the license is really directed to the customer, not the production company. So yeah, it's an interesting gig. But I tell you, there's a lot of pieces and parts depending on the size of the conference that really have to be well understood. It's not a menial task to do it right. Different types of ticketing and pricing and discounting and all that jazz. So, and then there's their safety gates that really kind of stop you, the customer, from bait and switching people, which is to be out there and then be able to remove or change, and there's some stop gates that are built into the system as well. So you have to be quite sure about about your innocent legal intention, but appears to be, maybe a move for bait and switch, for instance, that you won't be able to make that change. And some of those things have loosened up a little bit, but some haven't either. So anyways, it's a worldwide product on Zoom. I haven't looked at it in a while now, but it was beta for the US only forever. And Zoom Events was a worldwide, I'd say limited worldwide product. And there's just some countries that couldn't participate. And I think those are growing over time. But yeah, it's definitely a much more mature platform that's doing lots. But Zoomtopia, Sam's from Zoom, the Zoom Events team, the professional team, they did some follow-up webinars, 3 of them, that talked all about all the other tools around it that produced into the platform, vMix and Isadora, everything we know about Andy, Isadora and OSC and ISO and so forth. So they leveraged a lot of things to make it look and work great. So they did a really good job. All right, so
Hey, Ray.
avatars, Q&A. Someone was chiming in there. Sorry. Who
Ray
spoke up?
Harwood's hands up.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wanted to add a little bit to Andrew's question. Yeah, I got a Zoom Events license when it first came out, and I've been experimenting with it since then. And I had intended to use it for an event, kind of the only hybrid event that I've ever done, because I'm a solo Zoom guy. It's just me. It fell flat on its face the very first day, and I basically published a webinar link, and that's what we used the next 2 days. Because at that particular point, you couldn't even get to a Zoom conference from a tablet or a phone, and a whole variety of issues. And sort of as just happened, I put a link in the chat about Denise Lahat's Facebook page following Zoom Events. And she actually has a series of meetings and webinars in a Zoom event that she's running and has been running. And at the next conference or the next meeting that she had, Andy and Sam were both there. And I just have to clean my language up here and just say, I ripped them a new one because people couldn't get to it, and it was totally problematic. A month later, they relaunched the Zoom Events with a big update, and it was all web-based, and you can get to it from any device. So they heard the problem, and I think that I've seen iterations now within the Zoom Events platform that are pointing to it being something really, really good. The analogy that I have is if you ever taught a teenager how to drive, there's driving an automatic, there's driving a manual, and there's driving an 18-wheeler. And meetings to me is driving an automatic, and webinars is like driving a stick shift, and doing a Zoom event, a conference, is like driving an 18-wheeler with all sorts of restrictions, as Jeff mentioned. And it's huge. And now I have
it's
ironically,
it's a specialty. I mean,
it is.
really.
But ironically, people who choose Zoom Events, not people, sorry, in my incredibly limited experience, The folks that are coming to me to use Zoom events, it's because they're looking for the simplest solution for their participants. What they're looking for is a fully automated self-driving automobile, but they're getting the 18-wheeler.
They want the 18-wheeler Tesla.
Right.
So yeah. So I do have a client that's actually asked for a Zoom conference in April. And what I've done is I've created a shell and I've populated with pictures of all of the speakers and bios and all of the events, and I put it together and I've kind of shown them how it works. And one of the beauties of things that you're supposed to be able to do with a Zoom event is clone it. So I've got the one that I had in the middle of December, and I said, clone this to a new date. And well, at that point, once you change the dates, the sessions, the meetings, and the webinars all have to be changed. But you can export in a CSV file and re-import, and that all broke. Couldn't work. And so here's, I'm going to go on for one more minute. Here's my big issue, is that if you get a Zoom events license and you have a Zoom conference and you have a problem and you put in a help desk ticket, currently the people on the Zoom support staff at tier 1 don't understand what you're talking about. They've not had enough experience yet in the platform. And the very first thing I've learned to do now is say, send this to tier 2. One of the reasons that I think Jeff is right that, you know, it's not really marketed. It's not mass marketed. They don't want just your everyday Zoom user to now start making conferences. They want those of us who really know what we're doing within Zoom to help them flesh out the product so that eventually it will be appealable to more of us producers. But right now we're still in that, I would say, nefarious stage where it's a lot better than it was, but it's not quite ready for prime time. But
Yeah, and you have to wonder, like, if marketing is sort of, the marketing department at Zoom is getting ahead of the technical department in terms of their comfort level of releasing something that still maybe should still stay in beta, I guess is the way.
yeah,
I don't know if I have that right. I have no idea what's
until they
going
get
on
it out,
behind the scenes, but it kind of like looks a little bit like that from what you're saying.
and it feels like that. I am glad that they released it because I think they do need the larger organizations to use it. I do know there was a guy who came into one of Denise Lahat's things, and he and I have become buddies. He's in the UK.
Mhm.
Put on a 3-day, 80-session conference solo. He did the entire thing himself. He had a number of issues along the way, but at the end of the day, he said, other than the panic attacks that I had in the middle, it worked really, really, really well. It was a language interpreter seminar sort of a thing. So it can be done and it can be successful. You just have to kind of be willing to put up with not really the greatest support if you run into an issue.
Well, the other thing I'd say about that event is just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it.
I agree.
And I speak from experience because I have, you know, I've done events where I'm an audio guy, but I've done events where it's been understaffed, and it means that I'm working at 90% the entire time, so that if another issue pops up, I can't give it my full attention, and it might need it. Now, if I were working at 70% because the event was properly staffed, then something comes up, you can address it. But you can't always do that. And, you know, we've all been in that. I'm sure a lot of us have been in that hot seat before, but, you know, it's just kind of, and now I'm much better at it. I'm much better at seeing that coming. And the way I look at a lot of this stuff, especially when I see people who are using Stream Decks, for example, they want to push one button and do 100 things. I'm like, that's great. But what happens if it doesn't do all 100 of them? Then what? So, like, you know, all these things factor in. And that's why I'm a big proponent of, like, when people come to me with events and they go, yeah, we want to do it this way and we want to staff it this way, and it's, you know, it's not enough of staffing. I go, okay, your event may go perfectly well, but if you if you have a problem and you want this thing to run smoothly on the back end, add this person in or add these two people in.
Yeah, this other client of mine from April is a little bit larger organization. I do primarily nonprofits and healthcare and that sort of thing. They have some technically oriented staff, not necessarily Zoom experts, but they've said, look, we'll staff a help desk if you'll train us and that sort of thing. So that's the type of opportunity I look for. Is
Absolutely.
they want to jump in and be helpful. They wanted to have a couple of rooms with some breakout rooms for some other things that they said, you know, we would staff the breakout rooms. They're very helpful. And they did the tipping point for them was the expo. They know that they have a half dozen or more people who would like to have you know, some of their services advertised and have people come in and that sort of thing. So that to me is the big deal. You could have just meetings and webinars and send out links to all of them in a booklet, and that would work fine. And you don't need the product. The other thing I will mention real quickly is that the Zoom Events license includes Zoom Webinar. So if you're paying $79 a month for Zoom Webinar, to me, it's worth the $99 a month. It's just an extra 20 bucks, you know, unless you're eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for a living. The extra 20 bucks gives you that Zoom conference capability, and you can play with it all you want if you have the time. And so if you're even considering going into Zoom events, Zoom conferences, you know, I would say spend the extra 20 bucks a month and play with it. And I've gotten to where I'm comfortable with it now, which is kind of dangerous.
Yeah. Well, I think I gotta add it in the sense that you know, I've seen either, you know, kind of firsthand or heard about it after with review, and that's the Zoom professional services. You know, when, you know, if you get familiar with who they are, Sam Kakaiko, I mean, Andy's really close to them as well. But there's a whole team of, you know, folks who, you know, some are dedicated to building, managing, and so forth, the platform for an event for a customer. There's others that will do the production piece if you need that. You know, I mean, it's kind of, you know, they tailor their quotes to what a customer needs. And oftentimes, they work with you. Like Greg Gibson had, excuse me, a customer who had a sizable event that you know, whether it was a want or the event needed a platform like Zoom Events, Greg priced in Zoom professional services and worked side by side with them. And so his, you know, exposure to the platform and the ability to be educated along the way and walk away with more than he had going in, and the customer being satisfied. I mean, it was a pretty magical combination as well.
And Jeff,
Uh,
I do want to point out that, you know, Zoom events and Zoom conferences like getting a webinar license. You don't get all of those services, and those services are great if you have a client or have a company that can afford those services.
sure,
You know,
absolutely.
they do an excellent job, and they're very, as we all know, very knowledgeable in that sort of thing. But for the smaller, limited budget organizations that still want to be able to put on, you know, they would go down to the Motel 6 to have their small room, you know, conference, as opposed to, you know, renting out, you know, some giant suite somewhere.
Yeah.
They still want to be able to do this, and that's kind of the space that I'm in. And yeah, I love Sam and Andy to death, but and they've helped me because, you know, of office hours and Zoom Test Kitchen.
Mhm.
They're not out there for the average person who's trying to use Zoom events and conferences and runs into an issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and also there are like I do theater, and theater moved on to into an online space, and we started doing a lot of producing events and things online. And the staffing thing is really true, because people think that anybody can do it. So they're like, "Oh, it only takes you and one other person." I'm like, I've staffed an event that I would normally do, you know, 20 people in person, and they expected it to be one or two person. I'm like, no, this is still a 20-person event, guys. Like, someone has to be in those breakout rooms, someone has to be in there. So that's part of it. But I also think that that space for the little guy, like, you know, I'm with Ray, we put on these events. They are not multi-million-dollar events. They are, you know, a couple hundred people or 100 people events or 50 people events. So for those events, I can do a lot in this space. Don't need to jump into, a bigger space than that. But what's hard about it is that there's not I still think it's hard for us to learn how to do those things, and how to fit into that middle ground space. If you have the money, then they'll sit with you and teach you how to do everything. If you want to learn how to do it, then you're kind of like, all right, let's get in a room and try to figure it out, which we do, which I think is amazing. But I think that
I'll
there
add
there
one
is
more
no,
thing that Denise Lahat has put out on her Facebook page, that she's going to have a series starting, I think, late January, where they are going to build a Zoom event online, basically get everybody in a meeting together, and they'll go through and go through that process. So if you're considering doing that, or have already considered doing that and are having issues, I think that particular experience will probably be very helpful for you.
the one thing that I was gonna say that I totally slipped my mind. What I'm having a hard time with my group is convincing them that Zoom is still the place to go, because they're very confused by the fact that they'll say, "Oh, this particular we're thinking of doing our event on this particular thing." And I'm like, "Guys, that's Zoom. They are doing their event on Zoom. They have
They're
just made it
charging a
easy
lot
for
more
you.
for it.
They're charging you a ton of money, and they have just built a front end." I'm like, we can build a front end. We could do our own we could do our own front end. We don't need to go to these outside services. They're like, no, Tamara, it's not on Zoom. And I'm like, look again. It is literally, they have built a front end to Zoom. They're not using anything else but that. So I do think that people are filling that space that Zoom is not filling. and
Yeah.
and people are very confused now about what Zoom is and what isn't. The average consumer, we're not talking about us, we're talking about like who the regular person who decides to do events on Zoom, because that's, they would do events in a little tiny theater or in a Motel 6 or wherever that is. Because I agree. I think that those group, they're having a very hard time picturing what is Zoom and what isn't Zoom.
Yeah.
is
I
what
think the easiest way that I've found to explain to customers with that, confusion, or they're convinced otherwise, is I just explain to them there's a lot of companies like Hopin and others who have built wrappers around Zoom, right? Zoom is Zoom. Zoom is the meeting, Zoom is the webinar, Zoom is the deliverable, the theater, all those things. But what was missing was that conference type experience in a
Right.
virtual space. And so there's lots of wrapper builders, but almost all of them have wrapped them around the core meeting space called Zoom.
Right.
But Zoom's built their own wrapper, if you will. And
Yeah.
so it's better integrated, more tightly integrated, and not exactly the same development person, but teams that collaborate every day and so forth. So there's really more than anything else. I mean, I think I would say, there's been pain experienced in the first year of the release of the product, but at the same time, on the flip side, the first year of this product has been incredible signs, proof of growth, massive amounts of time and money spent on developing, and developing this platform. I mean, they've used it now on 2 Zoomtopias, which, I mean, really shouldn't be overlooked. Just because of the complexity of that event itself. And so, they've learned from that, and they've made it better, and all those things. I mean, there's just, it's a new product. It's a very painful place for a developer, to be, to be able to have the wherewithal to, continue and listen to their customers. I think Zoom has done they do an incredible job listening, to the customers and so forth, because it's not a product. Their products are not built for single industries. They're not single purpose, and so they're, really trying to serve education's their biggest, right? And they've definitely, started paying attention to the production space. But there's tons, from government to financial and so forth. So, and they all have different, very specific needs, and they want to be number one when they're sharing a request to Zoom. So, I'm going to send a message here real quick in the chat. You get that? In the Zoom chat, it just, in the sense, I don't know if you guys are leveraging it or not, but the in-meeting chat is pretty impressive. I mean, being able to format, colors and font sizes to a degree, and underlining and bolding and indenting, and I think even bullet lists. I did 2 screen grabs, one unannotated, the other I annotated before I sent it. And I think the screen grab with annotation is huge. I think that that's a feature that could be leveraged. Oh my goodness, so much, especially with in meeting chat teaming up with Zoom team chat, in the sense that there will be this ongoing chat for your regular recurring meetings, so that when you come into a meeting you get to see the history and you get to continue to be involved. So all these references and screen grabs and notes and so forth just have a long life on these meetings. So it's quite cool, quite cool.
It's
And
it's
you can
also
see our yeah.
yet another reminder that even when you think you're not being recorded, you're being recorded.
Oh yeah, always.
Because I didn't get a pop-up when you did that screen grab.
No, I did a screen grab and the annotate, and it's been sitting in my chat
Yeah.
send window for the last 5 minutes, waiting for a bit of a pause and so forth. So, but yeah, I grabbed it, and now it's there for the history books, right? So, yeah, but I think there's there's some really good development. The part of like when fire up Zoom and it shows your calendar and email. That part I haven't connected with yet. I mean, it's there. I've looked at it, but I manage multiple accounts, and so I'm not gonna depend on Zoom on just a single account. For instance, when I check multiple times a day, but I think the richness of, I'm not the only person in the world, and my needs are the only needs that matter. But, in the corporate space and business space and so forth, when you've got this one tool that gives you access to your corporate calendar, corporate email, and your Zoom meetings, and soon Zoom spots for those, water cooler, conversations on the fly without having to schedule meetings and get everybody's buy off on it and so forth. It makes a lot of sense as well. So a lot of good things, going on. There said Q&A. There was something else. There's another new feature, and I think it was also kind of Zoom One license. I don't recall now. But that covers that. I did. I often think about what do we cover, and even review, and I think because it happens, it's like what used to be the most popular topic, probably by far the popular discussion, if you will, that would come up, and someone would ask is how do you get a high resolution meeting, how do you get a meeting that looks halfway decent when you're in it, or you're hosting it, or whatnot. That was a really popular conversation, and how to achieve it. And there for a while it was tricks of the trade with Facebook portals, or the Amazon Echoes, or a Zoom Room or whatnot, that would bump it up bump up these 360 experiences to a 720 experience. And if you're a larger account, business or enterprise, you could probably get the approval for 1080. Now that anybody who asks for 720 will get 720 on any of the paid accounts for sure. And and I think business enterprise have a pretty fine chance of getting a 1080 request fulfilled as well. So, but it's understanding. It's not just the request that solves all your problems, right? It is, then once somebody gets it approved, they go, hey, I've got 1080 on the account finally, and then they go, well, let's go prove this out. Let's make sure we're getting 1080, and then they start feeling like they were delivered something that wasn't true, and because they're looking at the statistics of, let's say, Ray Harwood's sending me his video, and I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at my stats, and it's only coming through at 360 or 720 or something like that, and you think you kind of got screwed on the deal, and you didn't get what you said you got, which was a full HD 1080 experience. And there's just so many other contributors, from your bandwidth capability, your CPU capability, your camera, can it send 1080? And if I'm looking at Ray Harwood's video and it's just a part of the gallery, it'll never come through at 1080. If he has all the capabilities it listed, from bandwidth, computer, camera, and so forth, and I spotlight them, so I'll bring up the stats real quick, just as a quick review. Stats. So, and I'll share my screen. Which one's my Zoom screen? There we go. That's the one. Okay. And this dark mode kind of makes it hard to see because everything looks like the same window. So let's see if I can create some separation. Close down some windows too. All right, so stats are over here. I go to the video stats. My overall usage is in the red. Oh, that's so high. High CPU. Oh, baby. Should take a look real quick at my task manager and see if that if Zoom's just picking up on that or if it's another process in my computer. vMix and Chrome. Good old Chrome. But that's memory. Let's see, CPU, offenders. There we go. Yeah, vMix is up there. Network inspector in Zoom. All right, so I go to video and Ray, talk to me if you would.
Hello, 1, 2, 3.
Take off the
This is me.
stats. And so it says the resolution receive is at 180. And I see Ray at 180. If I spotlight him, now talk to me.
Hello again. How are you doing over there?
And now it's at 360. Now,
But mine
I'm
says
going to
it's sending 720.
yeah. It says 270 right now. I'm sending 270. Oh yeah, now you said yours says it was sending. So it took a little bit, but it got to me now. I'm starting to
Right.
see
Yeah,
it.
it'll take
receive.
a while to scale up.
Yeah. And so I'm at 720. But now this account guaranteed is a 1080 account, and we're seeing 720. Now I'm going to stop the share. So you won't be able to see it, but I'm going to speak to it. So now talk to me, Ray.
Okay, one more time. And the other thing that I've done is I've made my view a full screen as well, which also is part of the equation.
Yeah. So now I'm seeing 360 on the receive. My CPU, I think, has got me slowed down big time.
That could be.
Yeah. But the point being is the size of the window makes a difference. So if I want to, if I know that Ray has the capability of delivering 1080 HD to the Zoom server, then in order for me to actually see it and prove it out in the statistics window is there's more components there. One, do I have the capability? Right now, my computer is struggling CPU wise, and I'm looking over at vMix, it's okay, GPU is okay, but it's got a challenge. And so I've got the bandwidth, and let's assume all is well. If I literally, like hand grabbed and shrunk Ray's window, the resolution will change on the fly, and as it gets larger and large enough, if you will, it'll get better as far as like 720 to 1080 and so forth. So, just that used to be an incredibly popular conversation, sometimes argument. On my desktop wallpaper, my monitors are 2K, and so I had plenty of room to, I drew a wallpaper that was 2K, but it had borders for 1080, 720, 360, and I would then drag this window out, and you'd see the statistics grow and grow and grow on the delivery of the resolution. And so it's very dynamic. That's the whole point. Is a Zoom client sends multiple resolutions up to the server. The server then decides and determines per attendee which one of those resolutions it's going to deliver to them, based on, I think, the whole environment itself. But it can only deliver one HD stream as far as the whole, get together or meeting is concerned, either a 720 or a 1080. And but it won't do both, and it won't do 720 to you and 1080 to me, for instance. It's only for the meeting as a whole. It can only will deliver one HD. And so we've even taken, and everybody says, oh yeah, I'm seeing 1080. Oh yeah, I'm seeing 1080. I would prove out, almost everybody who can see the 1080 is getting 1080. And then we sign into the meeting, and we have a mobile device join the meeting, and it instantly goes to 720, because that device has no capability of receiving 1080. Therefore, the Zoom servers deliver that one of two, right? Either a 1080 or a 720 to everybody in the meeting. It has to drop it to 720 for everybody because of that one participant who showed up with like a mobile device or a device not capable of receiving 1080 versus the 720. Put that mobile device in the waiting room, pops right back up to 1080. Bring him back in, drops right down to 720. And so just recognizing the behaviors, and like it or not, agree with it or not, none of us are arguing the incredibly low latency that Zoom delivers. It's truly amazing. I mean, I can watch myself move in my vMix, which is live right here, right? Camera to my computer, and I can watch myself on Zoom, and they're virtually the same. Now, let's give it this. My gallery picture of myself is local. It's not out to the cloud, and it's not round tripping to the cloud and back, where all of you guys are coming in via the cloud. But but with that, if I were to share my vMix screen, there's my vMix screen. So you guys, did it share yet? Oh, there we go. Now you can see the top right window and compare the top right window in the share compared to my video window in the Zoom, and see how much of a lag difference there is. There should be some, but pretty darn acceptable. It's amazing that, it does as well as it does.
Could you spotlight or whatever it is so that we can see both you and what you showed us on the share? Because I could only see the pinned or spotlighted person.
Oh, is there someone spotlight? I don't show that.
I just unspotlighted myself.
Oh, I got you.
So could you show that again, Jeff? That would be nice.
Yep. Okay, so I'm up So there's vmix, which is live, that's the share, versus my picture next to the share. They're pretty doggone close. And so I've always been impressed with how low of latency they deliver, and that's what makes a Zoom meeting. I mean, we just take it for granted of how responsive it is, but for them to be able to continue to develop, features, and rather rich features at that, and still achieve or stay on track with this low latency deliverable is, I think, nothing short of very impressive. So it's a challenge for them, I'm sure. Very good. Well, it is 2 hours and 10 minutes later. So not that we've ever stopped because we felt like the clock had to stop us, but if there's any other topics, questions, comments, shares from anybody?
I got, I put a question into the chat and I got a bunch of answers in the chat. So I don't know if you want to say it out loud for the viewers or not, but I can if you want to.
Yeah, let's talk it through before we
Okay,
I'm just
so-
pulling it up.
What internet upload and download speeds is the minimum for being on a stable Zoom meeting? For my being stable in joining that Zoom meeting?
Well, they say, and there's feedback and so forth, they say that Zoom is going to require like 4 to 6 meg a second at kind of any given time is kind of the minimum. I would say the minimum contingencies there. Frank, do you guys deal with any particular numbers that are big time different than that?
If you know who Mickey is, I'll say it depends.
Yeah.
I put a link in the chat. Depends if you're having a one-to-one meeting versus a group meeting. There's other things, but I'll also say that Wi-Fi and wired Ethernet are very different experiences. You may have the minimum required bandwidth, but you may not have the latency factor that can really decrease the quality of a meeting. And I tell people all the time, if you have an option, be on a wired Ethernet connection, and people ignore me all the time, and then they complain that their meetings are, stuttering or whatever.
Yep. Happens all the time. It's actually kind of difficult to deal with at times. But yeah, my bandwidth right now, my send bandwidth is at 3 meg. I'm just under 1,000 right now on the receive, but I'm not receiving a lot of refresh, data at the moment. But when somebody starts talking, Frank, go ahead and talk to us again. And
hey, Happy New Year. Welcome to the new 2023 Zoom Test Kitchen episode 1.
Yeah, so just his response took me from like 800 kilobits a second to 1,200, just when he started talking and all. So yeah, it's one of those deals. I think if you calculated 4 to 6 meg per, and that's where they in the last Zoom Test Kitchen, we were going through that whole new feature list, and one of them was the mesh feature that didn't cater so much, to the home user. I mean, it could be a home if you had 20, 30 people come over to your house and everybody fired up their own laptops to the same Zoom meeting. But that practice commonly is the case in a building, with, let's say a 10-story building with employees, and a good percentage of the organization is tied into this, webinar or whatnot. They're all individual feeds through their same, data center or router. And that becomes, kind of 4 to 6 meg per user times how many users. And that just simply adds up. And that's what their new mesh feature helps eliminate and decrease greatly. Yeah, Lois.
So you said 4 to 6 megs per second. And if I run an internet speed test, it comes in MBPS download and MBPS upload. How do those things compare? I mean, is it the same number?
Yeah, it's megabits per second, Mbps.
So
And
you say
and
4 to 6, mine is 230. Is that
yeah,
reasonable?
same scale. So
You're
let's
fine,
just say
Mona.
I say you should have, you're going to use
Or down?
6, let's just say, and the answer is 6 of 200. Yeah.
Is that up
What's
or is that down?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Are you telling us you're like, obviously the 240 is your download. What's your upload?
5.4.
See, that's not super awesome.
Right, but no, but this works fine. But my question on that is, when you say 4 to 6, is that both upload and download, or are there difference?
It's probably going to be less on the upload. If you have your statistics window open more often than you have in the past, like just in meetings moving forward, you'll commonly see that your upload is going to be a smaller number than your download. But they're intentionally two different measurements, because your internet provider, in your case, will give you up to 200 down, at least right now, but they're only actually giving you about 5 to 6 up. And my Google Fiber, where it's a gig install, I can get, usually it's quite balanced at like 940 down, 940 up, but 50/50, I may get 700 down, but 900 up. They actually service me really well on the upload, but your download is commonly a little bit larger in Zoom on the statistics than your upload is going to be.
I would say that what I tell people is, yeah, you meet the minimum requirement, but that doesn't mean you're going to have a good experience. You really, like, if you're just scraping by with the minimum requirement all the time, the internet fluctuates. You could have traffic or bandwidth issues. You're not going to have, like, you should try to exceed the minimum requirements when you do things with computers. You don't want to always be at the max all the time of your
Well, and
abilities.
in the business of providing live streams, for instance, when we do like a site survey to see, what internet pipe do they have there, and do we need to provide our own, and so forth, we know we're going to be streaming at 1080 at 6 to 8 meg or megabits, and so we know that we're looking for let's say 8 to 10 meg at an absolute minimum, times 2.5. So that 10, my requirement now is 20 to 25. So when I go on site, I want to make sure that they have 20 to 25 meg for us on the upload, so that we can broadcast their event appropriately. So it provides kind of that buffer that's built in, and a lot of, households, businesses, whatever the case may be, it's, you may do a speed test now and see the capability, but are the kids now streaming a movie, or a spouse now streaming a movie, and or gaming, or whatever the case is there now at 3 hours later on that site, is there more consumption of bandwidth from other parties that may not even be within your reach, but they're on the same property using the same bandwidth, and so that has
Yeah.
a real effect as well.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to say too, Lois, just as Jeff was saying that too, is that the numbers that Zoom gives you as the minimums, that is based on ideal bandwidth situation, meaning that you are the only one using that internet connection at that particular point during the whole duration of the meeting. You need this minimum. That's what they base their numbers on.
So again, the situation is that once a week, I go out to the meeting house. They have a very, very, very low number on here. It's like maybe between 1 and 2 for the download. But I have no choice. That there's nobody else on the property. It's just one thing. Can the things that are nearby, in other words, the apartment complex that's next door, is that using up the bandwidth from us, even though we have a separate connection to the internet? I didn't think it was.
I can answer a bit from that because of my internet industry. I've been in the internet industry for 30 years. So the official answer is it will depend on the internet type of connection you have going to your building, meaning as in Jeff's case, he has fiber. So he has a direct fiber connection to the ISP. And that is fiber to the home that Jeff has. Now there's
DSL.
fiber to the home, there's fiber to the node, which is more of a DSL type of connection. And there's also cable, and there's also cable fiber. Okay, so there's really the four main connections, not going into 4G, 5G, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, if you are on a cable type system, so let's say that it's cable internet, if your neighbor is using more cable internet than you are in the initial DOCSIS information, your neighbor, if their neighbor is one hop closer to their main connection of where your ISP's main office is, they will get better bandwidth than you will because you're further down the chain. Now in the DSL world, fiber to the node would be how much bandwidth is actually given to the node in your neighborhood. And then all the copper lines go back to that. Now, some companies in Canada, as Frank knows, they actually do a 1-to-1 where the actual DSL physically connects to the fiber. It's just a junction point. But in other countries, and we don't, again, Frank and I can't talk about the US at this particular point because we don't live there. But depending on the situation there, they could only bring it back to the node, and then that node might have only one big fiber cable that is now sharing internet back to. So it's very similar to like a cable type of connection where now you are the node now is that closer hop to their main point where the ISP's main location is. So to answer your question, as Mickey would say, it depends.
It depends.
It depends. But again, Wi-Fi is going to get worse. If you have a 4G, 5G tower nearby, you might actually get better internet off of the cell tower than you will off of your physical connection that's already coming into the location.
When I do this, I don't have the ability to use Ethernet. It's only Wi-Fi. And so I always have my phone right next to me. And if things start getting really wonky, I can use my phone as a hotspot.
Right. Yeah. Now, the other thing, too, to be careful is that your phone may decide to do an awesome job of interfering with your Wi-Fi in your laptop.
No, I'm saying I use the computer, I connect it by Wi-Fi to the phone's hotspot to get a better upload, download.
Yeah.
Right. But what internet connection are you using to that laptop that's doing Zoom when you're at the location?
I would use a DSL internet connection through Wi-Fi regularly. But if I see problems that morning, then I will switch from that. I will switch the Wi-Fi from that to my phone.
Okay, so yeah, so it's starting to sound, if I understood what you said specifically, is that what Frank and I are definitely telling everybody to do is use that Ethernet connection on your laptop.
It's not possible in this situation, in this building, it's not possible. I would if I could. I do that at home. But anyway,
times, and you may, depending on the service provider of your phone, they may either provide it or you may have to add it as an option. But it's tethering, and tethering would give you your phone's not going to do it. Well, it might. It depends on what kind of phone it is and so forth. Like with my iPhone, I could Wi-Fi so you're there. You can Wi-Fi your laptop to your iPhone to its internet connection, or you could take the lightning cable that charges it, or a Type-C cable. You've got lightning still, I think. And the other end is a Type-A USB. Plug it into your laptop. And so now you're actually wired to your phone, which is a much more solid connection, solid, dependable connection to your phone. and then use its internet connection. And you may see some real improvement there. I mean, I've streamed entire programs a couple different times on a tethered cellular data connection. Not desirable, but it actually went really, really well, especially compared to how the house failed me. So
Yeah, it's always, yeah, again, as Jeff knows, it's always good to have a backup connection, because even though Jeff is asking for that 20 meg up, redundancy when it comes to our event production world is huge, especially for paying customers.
yeah, for sure. All righty.
Bye-bye, guys. Happy New Year to
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah. Happy New Year to everybody. Yeah. Thanks for coming and joining us, Lois. Good to see you.
I'll be back.
Yeah. So,
And good luck with your internet issues.
Yeah.
Thank you. I got to tell you, even with all of the problems that I'm talking about here, the folks at the meeting are going, Lois is doing a great job.
Heck yeah.
What they really don't know, eh, Lois?
Well, it depends on your expectations. If you go from having as the microphone to having an actual microphone, hey, they're happy. I'm happy, they're happy.
Yep. Well, good seeing everybody. Great discussions. Always lots to talk about. Even when we've got listeners, we got Roland and Tony and John, and Dirk and Brody. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Ciao, Frank.